Hello, my name is Lexy Davis. I'm a self-discovery coach, a yoga and meditation instructor, a love enthusiast, and a really playful human being. I serve people through my business, Alive to Enjoy, and this is Heart Snuggles, a holistic wellness podcast where I invite guests to drop into their heart space through authentic conversations and compassionate intentions, all in mini cuddly episodes, hoping that you connect to your truth in the most authentic version of yourself. I hope you enjoy. Welcome everyone to Heart Snuggles. We're so happy you're here today, and I brought the most beautiful guest, and I'm really, really excited to share her with you today. So go ahead and tell them who you are.
I'm Katie. I live in Sydney, Australia. I'm very passionate about learning and discovering myself and evolving into the best person that I can be. And I'm here today to share with you a few of my experiences, and I hope that you can learn from them.
Yes, so good. And so what was the last random act of kindness someone did for you?
It's very small. We've been in lockdown for many months now here, but we're allowed to go to the supermarket, and I was in line buying biscuits and wine. And a lady looked at me and she let me go first. And I was like, that's really kind of you. Thank you very much. She probably could tell I needed it.
That's perfect. I love that. It's so fun. Like, we really can tell. I feel like I can always tell, when you can tell when someone's having a bad day, and just that little thing will make their day.
Like letting someone go first, giving a smile. It's nice.
So good. So tell us about your self-discovery journey and how you've kind of started that, as you work in a corporate job. So it's not what you do for a living, but you still do the work, which I think is so great. And so many people are in corporate and are interested in this stuff. So I think it's cool to share.
Yeah. I had quite a complicated upbringing, and the struggles in my family were a lot of like addiction to alcohol and violence, domestic violence in my house. So I knew that I didn't grow up like a lot of my friends, and I hid a lot of that. And I knew that it was manifesting as I became an adult in fear and anxiety. And I became really aware that I wanted to be confident. I wanted to be like, I just wanted to fit in like everyone else and not feel so socially awkward and anxious and unsure of myself. I wanted to feel confident and empowered. And that is what began the journey of educating myself. And it was really only me. And that's probably the best thing that ever happened, was coming to that realization on my own, that I needed to work out everything that I need to do to evolve and just start now.
So powerful. I felt the same. I'm like, why is my life so much harder than everyone else's? Like, I went for elementary school to fifth grade, I was in a private school, and everyone just had the most cookie cutter lives. And and then like past that, like I was always going to friends' houses and everyone was just normal and had normal families. And I'm like, why am I so different?
Totally. And even the fear of having people over, because then they would see that, or my friends going out and joining sporting groups because they were confident in themselves just to give it a go. And I never had that confidence. I just thought like, no, I'm going to be so terrible at that, never giving it a shot. And I never wanted to lead my life like that. So yeah, I just decided one day that I was not going to let my history and, that define me, and that I was going to grow out of it.
So powerful. And do you have siblings?
Yes, I have a younger brother.
And does he do any of that?
I think like with time, we were exposed to different things. So I think that he will have to do his work in his own time. And I think that he is such a sensitive and wonderful person with so much depth. And he has the same love for learning that I do. And I think that with time, as he has life experiences, he'll come to his own and just really embrace the past and break free of it too.
That's so, so powerful. And that's beautiful that like, yeah, you just are honoring where he's at and like knowing that too, that you guys have such different experiences, even if you are siblings. It's so interesting. Like I hear that so often, like even if they were there for the same times for the certain like traumatic events or whatever, like they still experience it in such different ways and move through it and it affects them as a human in different ways too. And to hold space for each other's pains is that must be so, yeah, I don't even know. I don't have a sibling. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting growing with someone that had a mirrored experience, but still has such a different perspective. And it is a point of growth for me to sort of look at how my brother handles things and how he thinks about it. And I can absolutely see his perspective. And it also casts a light on my shadows. And I can kind of see, okay, my walls are up in this respect. And I'm not um, responding as well as I could or receiving as much as I could um, if I am not as vulnerable as I could be. So it's important. It's important for me to have that mirror so that I can continue just to grow.
Mm-hmm. And so, how have you started to be vulnerable? Because that was a really hard thing for me as well, because my truth of the matter was like, I don't want people to know. So, how did you become
Yeah,
vulnerable?
I didn't. I didn't. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I it was baby steps. It was like, well, for me, actually, it was gaining confidence first in myself. I moved away, moved 2 hours away to a new part of Sydney that I'd never been to. I'm from the Blue Mountains, which is a very, very large but different part of the world compared to the city. And I moved on my first paycheck. I got an apartment. I hadn't even seen it yet or inspected it. I had no idea where it was. And I just was like, well, I have no choice but to start again. And I got a job and I started succeeding in that respect. And when that confidence kind of came, like, I am capable, like I can do things. And I was studying and I was sort of doing everything, meeting new people. Um, I built that confidence and relationships where I began sort of divulging a bit more. And it still takes a bit of time for me to go into that sort of depth because I think that I don't think that everyone is at a place where they can understand or hear that type of upbringing or expect it. And I also it's hard to talk about with just so openly. So I think that it comes with time and trust in my relationships that I have the space and that they are in a place where they can hear it and hold a space for me to talk about it um, and support me if I need it and, share their experiences because there's been times where I was super sure that someone would not get it. And they wanted to know all about my life. I was like, do you? Like, because it wasn't always, I don't have the life that you thought I do. I come from 2 hours away. Like, my childhood was very difficult. Um, and they had such a similar experience. And you're just like, wow, like, you can't tell. Like, you look so normal. Like, how is this? How was that your story? How did you get past that? So I think, sometimes being vulnerable, it also leads to a place of greater acceptance with others too, because they know more about you and understand you a bit more. And there's a safety in that. There's a safety in knowing that you're not hiding anything or hiding parts of yourself. And I find that so beautiful and something that I really love in my relationships.
Yeah, it's that I've the same. Like I was never told anyone anything. And when you
Yeah.
do, it's like, oh, like everything just, your connections deepen and then you start to realize like we all have so much pain that we're not talking about. Like, why aren't we talking about this? We'd feel so much better if we just talked about it. So yeah, I think it's beautiful that um, you got that confidence first. I think that's also like a cool way to approach it because it does need to, like, you do need to have your own back when you do that because in case, like you said, when you do share with someone, they don't know to hold it, then you're like, ugh, like you had to have your own back.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you have to be in a place where you're okay with someone not being in a place where they can hold a space for you. And you can't, I try not to expect that. I try to just go in and just sort of say, this is all the parts of me and my life. And that comes gradually. And I don't expect them to understand. I don't expect them to, say all the right things. There's nothing really to say. It's just that, I'm comfortable with it. I'm happy with who I am and what's come out of it in my life. And, whether someone accepts that part, even though I tried to hide it so much, doesn't matter. It doesn't define me.
Yeah, it's not your identity. I think that's so huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's what this book was talking about a lot. It's like the past isn't like you're not the monsters of the past. Those are just monsters in the past. And we so like closely like attached to that, when really it's just like that's just a part of us. It's not us as a whole human. And yeah, it's really freeing when you can separate those two and be like, all right, I am my own sovereign being, and like my pain does not define me.
No, the pain does not define you. The past does not define you. Your mistakes, no matter how big they are, don't define you. You can grow from them and you can learn and share. And that's also an important part of growth, is the accountability for things that you've done out of pain or hurt and trying to really make amends with that.
Oh, I was just going to say how a lot of the time, like the most vibrant, like beautiful souls have been through the most shit. And not always, not in all cases, but like a lot of people that are seem like they're in a really good place is because they've been through so much shit. And so they love so much harder because they never received that love. And because of the experiences that like they know how hard life can be and like how to make the most of it now since they've been through so much.
Totally. Absolutely. I think that grief and loss has enriched and added depth to the way that I can love someone, no matter what's sort of going on, that you can look past a singular situation or a difficult situation, see them for the person that they're striving to be and really support that. And that for me came with perspective of knowing how I was and how I acted, so closed off, just a brick wall, no emotion, never wanted attachment, rejected like any type of relationship, kept the ones that I had, kept and maintained them really well. And I have the best friends ever. But particularly when it came to romantic relationships, it's so afraid of being vulnerable because of rejection. But when you can be vulnerable, it just strengthens the love because you know that they can accept you and they accept everything that you've been through. And it's so powerful. It's such an enriching moment.
Yeah. And to weed out the ones that don't. It's like, good,
Totally.
leave if you don't want to. You can't
Yeah.
this, and you need to go because this is me. And like, I want someone to accept me fully for who I am, all parts of me, not just the good parts.
Yeah. And they have things too, like everyone has something. So I just think that my problems are big for me, just as their problems are big for them, even though it's not the same situation. They still defined us in that moment in time and were moments that we had to spend a lot of time healing from, out of fear or anxiety, however that manifests later in our lives, that we all have things. And all the most important thing is that we're just kind and hold a space for that, even if we don't get it. Perspective. We have to have the perspective that all problems are different, but that doesn't make them feel less.
Yeah, understanding is like one of the biggest things in relationships. Like you should be able to have that lens on at all times, and it's not like just your perspective or just your pain. Like there's always someone else's perspective, someone else's pain, and it's really important to be able to hold space for both, because otherwise it's kind of selfish if you're only seeing it through your own lens.
100%. And it's like conflict management too, right? Is when you have a disagreement and you're holding your beliefs of what you know are true, but you're also playing out those like trauma responses of fight or flight that you have had for so long. And you have to really sit with yourself. And I know for me, because of the way that I grew up, I don't yell and I don't express anger. I will sort of just say I'm really angry about this while smiling or something, because I just haven't been able to sort of, yeah, like it's just one of the things, and it's something that I am trying to sort of, it's actually something that I appreciate about myself, is that I can manage those feelings, strong feelings of sadness or anger or resentment, and just kind of sit with them and not act out on them. And I think that also takes a lot of perspective and going through things, that it's like, just because you're hurt doesn't mean you have to hurt others. And it doesn't mean that what you feel isn't real, or that you shouldn't be angry. But the way that we project it is so important, and it can help conflict resolution so much in relationships when you have the self-compassion for yourself of what you've been through, and compassion for the other person and their perspective, and just try to talk it out.
Oh, yeah, that brings me back to lots of memories. But yeah, with my ex, like he would be so reactive, and I'm like, oh, like my nervous system response was to shut down as soon as
Yeah.
he yelled, like because my dad's bipolar, and it was just like had no control over his emotions, so he would yell at me, and I would shut down. And so when my ex would start yelling at me, I would just shut down, and I wouldn't know
Yeah.
what to do, and it was just this thing. And I'm like, okay, you need to sit with yourself, or you need to feel that anger, not put it on me first, and then we can come back and talk about whatever it is. But like the fact that you overreact and just dump and like literally treat me like a trash can, and just think that I can hold it all, and then but I'm there frozen, so like I am sitting there absorbing it all. So it's just like this crazy dynamic. But something else I wanted to add to that is what I'm learning right now about the nervous system, is like what we've made anger mean. So we don't welcome anger because it means, oh, that's my angry dad, I don't want to become that, and that means
Yeah.
XYZ. And so like I don't let
Totally.
myself really feel that because I don't want to become that. And I'm like, whoa. And so we have these like
Mm.
yeah, we make up these meanings to emotions, and that's so interesting.
100%. And when you're in those moments where you shut down, where does your anger go? You know, like how does it manifest later? And it's self-sacrificing in the way that we sometimes just, we let people write it out, but we don't express ourselves because of what we've experienced. And then I think about like, where does my feelings matter? Where do I fit into this? And that's part of the work too.
So much self-abandonment. I this morning yeah, I had a huge wave of grief, and it started with like grieving the times that I've abandoned myself so many times. And since my mom abandoned me, like I was a victim, and I was like, my mom left me. And then I was like, holy shit, hold on. I've left
Mm.
me like years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many times in relationships too, I didn't I speak my truth, or speak my emotions, or validate myself. And so like I was grieving that I never did that for myself. And like it's just so interesting because it never goes away. Like you said, like if you don't express it now, it stores somewhere and turns into something else. And until you're able to let it go, like energy does never delete or whatever. It never goes away. Like it just transforms
Yeah.
into something else. So you have the choice to like harbor it or express it and let it be released.
Yeah. For me, it was learning how I grew up. My mum was amazing. But when you grow up, even just with one parent that can't manage their emotions or express them healthily, you have one side of the spectrum and the complete other. And your job in life is to find the balance. Like for me, I've never been blackout drunk, ever. I've never allowed myself to get to that point. Um, I never wanted to express anger because I was afraid that I would become that. And then in that, you kind of go, I am abandoning myself, because where is it going? Where do I matter? Like anger is important, but how like you've viewed it and how you've learned to express it, and undoing that kind of learning from a young age, and learning what the right and healthy way to express that is, and having the conversation and expressing feelings, and, you know, taking time. And that's something that I do quite a lot, is I don't want to be super reactive at the time. So I'll often sit with my feelings for a little bit, add some space, and then come back to it when I actually know um, what it is I'm feeling. And it's not just the reaction. And it's always deeper, you know. It could be that something recently that I've been working on is, you know, how do I like matter? And something would happen very small, like, say, for example, say I'm, you know, may not be included in something. And I'm like, it's because I don't matter. It's because like they don't want me there. I'm shit or whatever it is. And that is a big picture issue. But the actual feeling was just that, you know, I just want to feel important. I just want to feel like I matter. And it's not that I wasn't doing that thing. It was just being excluded. It was, you know, so I'm trying to kind of work on expression and coming to my own terms of truth of when something happens to me. Am I really sad that that happened? Or is it like my trauma responses going through my nervous system and just going crazy? And I'm in fight or flight all the time. So that's something that I'm working on at the moment.
That's so powerful. Oh my gosh. Yes. That's something I've been working on too. And it's like, all right, here's my trauma response. So I need to do two things. I need to communicate this to the people I'm with so that they understand where I'm coming from. And the second is, how can I fulfill this need in myself? Because this is something I never received. And like, I have to give it to me first. And I can't expect it to be from other people because otherwise other people aren't always going to be there. So it's like, but being able to have that vulnerability where you can communicate like, hey, I'm activated right now. Like this is, you know, this just ripped open a wound. I need to like sort this out. Or like, this is how you can support me. Like asking for my needs is just, whoa, like that's been so hard for me because no one ever asked me what my needs were. Yeah. No one ever asked me what my needs are. No one ever checked in on my emotions. So yeah.
And asking for help. I can't ask for help. That's another thing I can't do. I would just be someone that gives perpetually, but I just can't ask for it myself because and not that this is true, but just what it felt like was that I was just in on this on my own and I only had myself. And if I didn't do it myself, it would be just a total shit show, even if that's not the truth. It's just how I felt, or that someone may not be willing to do it. And then I feel like I've been vulnerable, even something small, like asking for some help with lifting something or, you know, something around the house, and you get so resistant to doing it because you just are in that stage of like, I can't do it. I can't be that, can't rely on anyone else. And that's also another point of growth for me, is actually just sort of accepting the help. And I think that I do now more. But yeah, it's a big trust element too, is trusting someone enough to be vulnerable and trusting someone enough to feel comfortable to ask for their help when you need it. And just trusting someone is going to be there for you, and building that is such a catalyst for so much trauma and growth and to evolve as a person. And that happens so safely in healthy relationships, friendships, and romantic relationships. Yeah.
I felt the same as well. And not wanting to ask for help because I already felt like such a burden. So I'm like, I'm not going to add something onto that. Like, no, I'm already burdened enough. I'm not going to ask for help. So yeah, I feel that so much. And the trust, like, because with our nervous systems, we co-regulate with one another, and like we need to have safe communities to heal. Like, yes, you can heal on your own, but you also need that community to help support you through things, especially like shame. Like shame only survives in the dark. And like as soon as it's like, as soon as you speak about it and you're held and still loved, like that's when it goes away. And so you need community for things like that. And you need to like be heard. Like since, you know, we haven't, these things that we've been lacking, like we need to receive it from other people too. And that's why it's so important to have good connections.
Totally. I 100% agree with that. Shame for how you feel about yourself or others or things that you've done, and being able to illuminate those things and move past them and learn, and knowing that you have people that you can really say, I fucked up big. And knowing that they're still just going to be there for you is amazing. It's such a gift to know that you can fuck up with love around you and it's going to be okay. And you can always learn and grow from it. So We create no spaces where shame can thrive.
Yes, that's the most beautiful feeling ever. I remember the first time that I made a mistake and my friends, like, it was fine. Like, they still just were like, and I was like, wait, what is happening right now? Like, I'm still okay. Yeah. And so that, like, immediately, like, it was like the biggest eye opening. Like, all right, I'm going to give this gift to everyone because we all make mistakes. We're all beating ourselves up when we make a mistake. And it's like, how human are we? Let's start bringing the human back into the humanness that we are.
I wonder if, like, because of what we've been through and how we've felt, fucking up feels bigger for us, even if it's not, because of what we've experienced growing up. And one small thing can lead to such a huge explosion where it's not safe to make a mistake.
Exactly that. Yeah. So we learned that it wasn't safe to make mistakes. So now we avoid mistakes and we avoid confrontation because if we said the wrong thing, then love would be removed from us. And like
overthinking.
Yeah.
And then we're back to self-abandonment because if we speak our mind and if it's a mistake, then, it's just a cycle.
Yeah. But we are conscious and breaking it. And it's so beautiful that we are taking those steps. It's not easy to do that. And like, yeah, it's first is the awareness and second is the action because you can be aware of it and not do anything about it. But like being aware of it and then like moving through that is fucking hard because you have to go through the shit again and like go through those emotions and but then the other side is so groovy, baby, so it's worth it.
It so is. Self-acceptance is the most liberating feeling, knowing that you are enough and okay, and having the confidence of knowing that no matter what comes your way, that you trust yourself enough to navigate through that. And that's probably when I became comfortable with being vulnerable.
Yeah, self-trust. Wow. Oh, so beautiful. I love this conversation. But let's just quickly chat about how you've been going through a breakup during quarantine and how that's been.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's tough because the support network that you would normally have isn't there. And it forces you to sit with yourself and think about everything, every single little thing that, could have been done differently, or a lot of shame and self-blame. And on the other side of that, though, once you think of all the different places that things could have gone, if one thing had been done differently, if I didn't quit my job, if I, did stupid different things just to please others, would it be different? And, I think that going through a breakup in lockdown is harder than usual because you're isolated and you don't have that community or the network to just go to someone's house and hang out or, leave, outside of our little towns to go see someone that may live a bit further out. So, yeah, it is tough, but there is self-acceptance and acceptance of the situation and knowing that trust is the most important part of building relationships for me. And knowing that no matter what I had done differently, no matter how it ended or how it ends up later, that relationship can't come back. The things that happened can't be undone. The trust was broken and I was betrayed in that. And that relationship just won't come back together in the same way. And it doesn't define anybody. It is the place that they're in that moment, and they'll grow out of that, and I'll grow out of this, and lockdown won't be forever, and life will go back to normal, and we'll continue to grow and evolve the way that we're meant to. And, I just hope that outside of this and the strong feelings that I felt right now, that, there's a place where just the appreciation of the good times, I know I am just so appreciative that we had good times, and those things were very real. The feelings were very real. And the relationship was, amazing for me. It was the first time that I experienced vulnerability, true vulnerability and commitment. I was so avoidant of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was afraid of integrating with another family because of my family dynamic. Not that my family dynamic is bad like now, but I was afraid of getting too attached, like too involved, and then having to say goodbye and like losing that. I was afraid of loss. And fear is just the biggest driver of neglecting our needs and wants. And I think that it comes to a point where you just have to know what your deal breakers are. And in a relationship, I think that you can just have the goggles on that everything's okay and that no matter what, it's all going to be fine, and it will be. But you have to kind of just know yourself and know your limits and know when something can't be undone, and just accept that for what it is and not what we wish it to be. And just accept and just move forward with knowing that everything was very real for us, and what I felt was real to me. It was my reality. And no matter what, that can't be taken away and history can't be changed. So I think that the best way to go is just forward and just starting again. And it's the most like the best time to just sort of reinvent all the little things is, after a breakup. So I think that this is a good opportunity just to do what I want to do and become the person I need to be and grow and learn and evolve.
Mm. There's like 1,000 things I want to say after that. Oh my God. I was like, wow, you just said so many great things. We are like the same person also. Everything you said, I'm like, what? This is me. So it's so amazing. Okay, the first thing was saying that like going back, and because I did this too, like all the things I did wrong. And since our upbringing, we have that programming like that we are a mistake. And so that's always our fault. And so it's always that's immediately where our mind goes, because we think like, yep, it must be me, if they did that to me, I must have deserved that, like what did I do to deserve that? And it's such a like a sad story that that's where it goes, but that's just, just the upbringing and our programming, and that just having to remind yourself of that is not true, and it's nothing you could have done differently. Nothing you could have done differently. But I also went through a breakup right at the beginning of COPE, like the beginning, straight at the beginning. And you helped me so much with that. I remember calling you and I was like, oh my God, she's an angel. She's an angel. But yeah, and actually what I found too is that it was it almost as though it's so intense because I did the same thing. I went through everything and like all the things were different. But at the same time, it made me feel through it quicker because I was forced to sit with myself and sit through all the things and
not just be avoidant and just sort of like rebound. You can't. There's no one to rebound with.
Yes. Yeah. So it was like kind of a blessing in disguise to have it happen during this time, because I'm like, I actually had to heal and feel through this on my own and not like be avoidant, which I'm extremely avoidant. So and to move forward too after that. And I love too that you're like, this is my reality. Like no matter what the other person is saying right now, like this was my reality of the experience. And that is true. And I also choose to step away from this because now the reality is not what I want.
Yeah. It's a cycle where we just want to have an answer. We want the closure wrapped up in like all of our answers of what went wrong, what could I have done differently, and like a bow and given to us. But I think closure just happens within, of knowing and understanding afterwards, how can I evolve from this experience? And then doing the work so that, and that's what I'm doing now, is so that my next relationship is even better. I love harder, deeper, and that this enriches my experience to love myself and someone else. And self-compassion particularly is so important, because if it was right, then it would have worked. None of this would have happened if it was, there. And I think that's something that I struggle with, is just giving up, because it's the self-abandonment of that. I know that I can get through this, and that I have the strength to overcome a lot of challenges. And so I neglect when enough is enough. And so in a way, it's a blessing that this happened, because it leaves me with no other choice, because I can't undo it, So everything happens for a reason, and we can't change what is, no matter how much we wish it was different. We just have to keep evolving and learning, and ensuring that we grow and learn. And my mantra is just, I'm not a product. I'm not defined by this, like, of my history, and just really making that true.
That's so powerful, that accepting the reality, because I did the same in my last one. I was like, no, we can work through this. Like, I believe in, and keep holding on to the false reality. Like we're holding on to the hope and not the truth. And It's hard, because the truth is like, it's not what we want. So
it's not what we want. It's painful, and it is just dark, but it is also light. It's all the possibilities in the world opening up to you at once, for yourself and for others, and for them as well. And you can just live in total freedom and peace, knowing that you did the best that you could. And that's all you can ever do. And now you can just learn and grow and enrich your next experience with someone else.
You're so beautiful. I'm so proud of you for talking about this so fresh out of a breakup. Like, you are so, so strong. And I just look how vulnerable you are. Like, let's just talk about that for a moment. You saying that you can't be vulnerable, and here you are, like, fresh out of a breakup, like being so vulnerable and sharing your heart. And I just know that this will help so many people hearing your story. So I'm really grateful, really grateful for that.
Yeah, I think that, things get hard, and that's okay, but they get better too. And that's just the focus, is just that the story isn't about them or the past. It's just about you and now and the future. And that's what we just need to put our energy into.
Yeah, it's so easy to want to cling on to them and point the finger and be like, blah, blah, blah. But it's really like, all you have is yourself right now. So let's work on us and move forward.
Totally.
Like, you can just get stuck in that spiral forever, and that's not going to serve you in any way.
No. So just a lot of self-love, a lot of talking it out, a lot of doing the work, and being receptive to new things. I think is very healing. This has been very healing.
Yes. So I agree. And I want people to know how old you are, because that's another piece of hope, because you're still young.
Yes, I'm 24.
Yes. So magical. I'm like, this girl. Not that I'm that much older than you, but still, it's so beautiful. And it's so cool. So when did we meet?
2018.
2018. I met her. I was with a friend of a friend, and you were living together.
Yeah. We were living with, I was living with your friend, and it was in Sydney. And as soon as we met, we were just like, well, we're friends now.
I know. Instantly, I was like, this is my friend. I hope she likes me. That's what I thought.
Yeah, because I was doing so much inner work, and so were you. And so we just were able to really connect over that. And throughout the last few years have just sort of grown with each other in our lives, even if we're living on the other side of the world, which I think is just so special. And I'm just so appreciative that I was able to meet you and share that with you, and to be able to support each other through life. It's so nice.
So nice. Yeah. And it's so cool too, like, because we don't talk that much, but like every time we do, it's like we just never left off, it's just where we left off. And
totally.
And there's so much compassion between us, and it's just such a beautiful thing. So I'm so grateful for you.
I'm so grateful for you too.
And I want to ask one last question. And what was The last time that you made someone smile.
Okay, look, there's not a lot that we can do at the moment here in Australia, but I like to think that the memes that I send consistently, I'm a consistent meme sender. And I'm thoroughly, very much confident that that would have brought many smiles.
Okay, I need to get on that train. Please start sending me memes. I love memes. Oh my gosh, it's one of my love languages for sure. Oh, so great. Thank you for sending the memes. That's
Yes.
so great. And so if people want to find you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at not Katie Thompson.
I love your name. How did you come up with that?
Very simply, every single name was taken, and unless I wanted 100 different letters or numbers, it just had to be not Katie Thompson.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, darling, for being here and sharing your
Thank
heart.
you.
I'm so grateful.
I'm grateful for you too. Thank you for having me.
Yay.